Felicia said hello.
Good evening, my family.
Cousin Jerry said hello. Hi. We're kind of late. We were having some technical difficulties, but we're on tonight. I'm glad to see everybody. Sante is here. I hope everybody liked last week. We got a lot of information in a short little bit of time. I think my mom probably went to sleep pretty tired, but I hope you guys liked it. If you guys have any questions or want to share any pictures, please do so. Last week we talked a little bit about Grandma and Grandpa's love story at the jail. Becky said hello, Mom. And we talked about where Grandpa and Grandma Resendez lived and what they did. Angelica said hi. And so tonight we'd like to continue. What do you think, Mom? What would you like to talk about tonight?
You want to continue on the Resendez side?
Is there anything else that you have left to talk about on the Resendez side, or you want to go ahead?
Well, you know, just those little stories that Grandma used to say.
Yeah. I promised Cassandra that we had a juicy story to tell tonight. So do you want to go ahead and start with the juicy?
Okay, I just want to talk to you about Grandma Resendez. And, you know, Rebecca touched base about saying how tough Grandma was. And this fits right in. Grandma was saying that she was working out in the fields one day, and she saw a snake, and she said it was a red racer. But what's funny is she would run a little bit, and then the red racer would run like about 20 feet in the side of her. Then she'd stop, and then it would stop. And then she would run, and it would run. And so what she said is she had heard stories about how red racers would whip you, and the best thing to do was to get somewhere where it would damage the snake. So she ran to, and she was finally able to get to a fence that was made out of barbed wire. And she said she got as close as she could to it, and when it took a dive at her, because she said it jumped up at her, it started beating her. She said she just kept getting close to the fence and getting close to the fence, and the red racer was cutting himself up with the barbed wire, and it was making him madder. But she just stood there, and she just put her hands up to her face, and it kept beating her, and it finally it cut itself so bad it just kind of swiveled away, and she said it died because she had found it later and it was dead. But she showed me the scars that she had on her back and her legs, and it was from a red racer. And she said, you need to be careful because they're devils. And that's one story that she said, and I thought, oh my God, if that red racer would have killed her, we wouldn't be here. But Grandma was happy to tell me that, but I'm going to tell you another story about Grandma. And I told you that Grandpa was a macho man, and he was a woman's man, and he was good looking. So
I just want to, for those people that are just logging in, I want to let you know she's talking about her grandma Maria Teresa Tuñez with the red racer, and now she's talking about her grandpa Trinidad Resendez.
Okay, they were married already, and they were living out in the country, east of town, she said. So I'm assuming like La Habana or somewhere. My grandpa used to go around looking for jobs all over. But she said there was a lady that had gone into the area where they lived, and they lived like in haciendas, you know, like vecindades. And they had told her that there was a lady that's after Grandpa. And grandma doesn't know whether Grandpa had an affair with her or not. She was there such a short time, but the ladies told her that lady was making eyes at Grandpa. So she said she'll take care of it. So what she did, and it's so funny because she had me giggling when she was telling me, she went and she got a pan and she started boiling water, and then she put chile piquin in it. And chile piquin is pretty hot, but she got a few little rags and she threw them in there and let them boil with the chile piquin. And then she made a bargain with the ladies in the area to help her with this, and she had them like bodyguards at this place. It was a dance at night, and all the ladies and the men got together. They were drinking. Uh, the bathrooms were outside. It was just a big hall with a little end where they used to take food. And she called the lady, but she already had her friends guarding the windows. She said there was 4 windows and 2 doors. And when she kicked to the kitchen, there was 2 more ladies that helped grandma, and they got the lady, and she said, you want to taste my chili? Here it is. And she pulled her panties down and stuck the hot rides with hot chili under her in her panties. And she says, okay, you're having a taste of my chili. And she said that the lady was running around. She was running from one door to another door to a window, and they would just push her in so everybody could be laughing at her. She says, you're not going to believe it. She said, but by morning time, her and her husband were gone. They didn't take nothing, not even the dishes. She said, but I gave her a taste of my chili. That was so funny.
Oh my
And I'll never
goodness.
forget that. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
But grandma and grandpa were very special in my heart. They were very special. Like I said, I was afraid of grandpa like nobody's business. But towards the end, um, there was nobody going in to help grandma clean the house, so he would have me go in for a little while, but he would make sure that I cleaned the bathroom, and he would be standing there to see exactly how I was going to clean the toilet bowl. But he had gloves for me and everything, and they were special, and he marked them toilet, and that was for me to clean the toilet. But then he also had gloves for me to do the dishes. And it was so funny to hear my grandpa taught me how to wash dishes, because when we were growing up, we just put a pan with water and we started washing dishes. And not with grandpa. Grandpa taught me that you rinse the dishes first, and then you start with the glasses, and then with the dishes, and then with the forks, and then with the pans. And he taught me how to wash dishes.
Yeah. I got to see Maria Teresa Dunez would be Grandma Granillo's mother. Where was Grandma Granillo born?
She was born in Hastings, Colorado, and Grandma Granillo was born February the 22nd of 1921.
In Hastings, Colorado.
In Hastings, Colorado.
Something that happened in 1921 here in Pueblo was the flooding that happened here in Pueblo, but she wasn't in Pueblo, she was in Hastings, Colorado. But I just want to give you kind of an idea of what was going on during the events during that time. And I just want to reiterate that was the Chile
Peking?
Yeah, that event is something for you not to do at home. It's dangerous to your health and others people's health. So don't try that.
Yeah, and then Grandma passed away. Grandma Granillo passed away May 7th of 07. And you asked me earlier, when did they get married? I don't know why Grandma celebrated her wedding anniversary either January or February. I don't remember, but I did come up with their birth certificate. I mean, their marriage certificate. And they were married March 29th of 1939. And that was through the district, to the court. And then she later got married by the church, but I couldn't find that information right now. But I need to get it so that we could know.
So the year that they got married was 1939?
1939.
Okay. Josefina said 1939, and she thought that it was January 16th.
No,
So that's why they celebrated it.
Yeah, I know. And that's what I said. I don't know why they celebrated it then, but on the marriage license, it says March 29th. And it seemed kind of funny because I told my daughter Margaret, Grandma was buried on your birthday. We never knew.
Oh, yeah.
But I do have their marriage certificate.
Okay. So what I have is Maria Teresa Núñez. She was born in 1886 and she was born in the state of Durango, Mexico. To give you some history about that, Durango, Mexico is one of the states where the revolution pretty much was lifted up with a lot of activity. The state of Durango is also the state where Pancho Villa did a lot of his running around and
Can
he
I
traveled a lot.
just hold you? What year did you say she was born?
1886.
1886, and then she was born in Lerdo,
Uh-huh.
Durango.
And her parents, their names was Maria Mercado and Jesus Atuñez. She had a brother, his name was Blas. And Blas was actually 4 years old when their parents were killed. So he was just a baby. He was just a baby when their parents died.
Did it say anything about how old Grandma was?
I can find the dates exactly of how old she was. I think she was like 11 or 12, but I need to make sure. She did have a sister. And I can't find her name right now, but I'll look for it. She had a sister, and she also passed away at a very young age, like around 11 or 12. So we can go ahead and go on. Let's go ahead and move on to Grandpa Granillo's side of the family. And you can talk about them. Grandpa Granillo's dad and Grandpa Granillo's mom. Who were they?
Okay. Grandpa Granillo's dad was Albino Granillo. And his mom's name was Juanita Hernandez. And Grandpa was born November the 1st on All Saints Day, and that's why they named him Santos. And he was born in 1912, and then he passed away in May 12th of 91. Grandma Macias, I didn't know her, like I said last time, I didn't know her because she died in 1944, August of 44, and I was born in September. But after Grandpa died, she remarried and she married Juan Macias. So when she was buried, she's buried as Juanita Macias, H. Macias, I believe.
So
Grandpa Albino was tall and he was light complected, and he also had blue eyes. And Grandma was more petite, she was a little darker, and of pictures that I've seen, but she was also a beautiful lady. Grandpa Granillo, he had, like I said, he had 5 sisters, and there were 2 brothers, but I don't have their names all together right now.
I have the oldest son was Eulalio. Do you remember him or heard of him?
Lalo, I know he had a brother named Lalo.
And then it's Santos, and Grandpa was born in 1911.
1911. No, 12. I have
1912, I'm sorry.
October of 12.
If someone could figure out for me, if Albino was born in 1886 and Grandpa was born in 1912, how old was Grandpa when his father died?
I don't know. Do you have the year Grandpa Albino died?
It says he, hold on. Albino passed away in 28, sorry. Albino passed away in 1928 and Grandpa was born in 1912.
16,
He was 16 years old,
16.
about 16 years old when his dad passed away. So that's a very young age to lose your father. I have him as a brother named Eulalio. There was Santos Granillo, Nolvato, and I believe Nolvato was a young baby that passed away now.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I have a death certificate and he didn't live too long.
She had quite a bit of children, didn't she?
In El Paso, she had several baby deaths of boys. And then there's Albert,
My Uncle Albert.
and then is there Agnes, Martha. Who else do we have? Neil,
Who?
Inez,
Agnes?
uh-huh,
My Aunt Agnes, my Aunt Martha.
Lupi,
Who?
your Aunt Lupi,
My Aunt Lupe, my Aunt Jenny, and my Aunt Vicky. But
Yeah.
the last two, they ran by Macias.
And so I just want to go back and let you know, Albino Granillo, he was born in also Durango, Mexico. The town that he was baptized in was called Santa Catarina de Tepahuanes, Durango, Mexico. And the reason why I bring that up is because the area of Durango where he was from, and also Juanita Macias or Juanita Hernandez, and also, believe it or not, Maria Teresa Núñez, they were all in a very close vicinity in Durango, in the state of Durango. So I went back to see like the Native American roots from Mexico, and it's the tribe, and it's called the Tepahuanes tribe. And even the
Tapahuanes.
Tepahuanes, it's Tepehuanes, and they're the tribe of the mountaintops of Durango, Mexico, and they're very well known as being savage and warriors and protecting their land. And as a matter of fact, as of today, their tribe is still there, and they still speak their language. Some speak Spanish and come down and do business with the rest of the population in Mexico, but they're very much guards of the lands that they have right now. And I know I have a pastor who's a friend that goes down and does missionary work at those mountaintops of where the family is from, and they still live in old times. They haven't really allowed technology or that stuff to come into those lands where they live. So it's called the Tepehuanes tribe, and you can look it up of what they speak, what they look like. And it just surprised me that even though they met maybe in El Paso or in New Mexico or Pueblo, and they all ended up here in Colorado, they're all from the same state, except Grandpa Trinidad Resendez, he was from Mexico City, but they're all from the state of Durango, from the same Native American tribe, which is the Tepehuanes. Okay, Mom, let's go ahead and Albino, that was your grandpa's, Grandpa Granillo's father. And we also have Juanita Hernandez, and when her husband died, she remarried. His name was
Juan.
Juan Macias.
Mhm.
And that's who you knew as your grandfather, was Juan Macias.
That's the one I knew as my grandfather.
And Albino and Juanita Hernandez, and also Juan Macias, they're all buried at Roselawn Cemetery. And you can go see their graves, they're still there. Tell us a little bit about Albino. What do you know about Albino?
Actually, I don't know very much other than he did work at the CFNI, and I don't even know what he died of.
No. How about your grandma Juanita? You said she died a year before, or the same year you were born?
The same year, 1944, she died in August. And maybe we can get one of the Solaces to talk. I think they would know more about grandma and grandpa because they lived right there close to them.
Yeah, that would be nice. So as far as we know, Juanita Hernandez, she came and she was living here in Pueblo. Did they also live in Salt Creek?
Grandma Juanita?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they're the ones that lived right there on Palo Alto.
Okay.
And she had family. When I talked to Betty before she passed away, that we would talk on the phone, she said Grandma Juanita had family that lived on the other side of the hill. So I'm assuming where the Marcuses and the Lermas live back there.
Mm-hmm.
But she couldn't tell me any more than that, and we weren't smart enough to ask Aunt Chalupa when she was alive.
One of the things that we were able to find out when we went down to the cemetery is that we were able to find Juanita Hernandez's mother, Jesusita Peinado, also buried at Roseland. Remember?
I don't remember who was it.
Jesusita Peinado. That was
Oh yeah, that was
grandma.
Cruzita. They used to call her Cruzita.
And so we were gonna go back out because she doesn't have a headstone or anything on her name. We just found the marker of where she's buried, but she's also at Roseland. So that was really interesting to be able to find Grandpa Granillo's maternal grandmother at Roseland. Tell us about Albino and Uncle Gavino, your brother's name.
Okay. First, I want to go back to last week, and I had said that La Señora Nieves Rodriguez had brought us all into the world, but actually, I remembered afterwards that Gabby and Vito and me, I believe Conchi, a little colored doctor is the one that brought us into this world. He used to go to the homes, and and the reason I remembered is because of the name Albino. My dad and my mom named Gavino Albino, but the little doctor, like he was a colored man, he didn't know all the Spanish names right, and on his birth certificate he put him Gavino. But Gabby was supposed to be named Albino, and they never changed his. And then my sister Vito, my mom had chose to name her Maria Elvira, and Elvira for my Aunt Vera, her sister, and the doctor named her Maria Alvina, and she changed her name. She did go change her name, but she would have been closer to Alvino, but he named her Alvina, and she changed her name to Elvira. And then me, he did okay with Conchi. My mom wanted Concepcion. She was born December the 8th, and he did okay with her. But with me, like I said, he was a little color doctor, and he thought that an A should be for a feminine name. And so he put me down as Consuela. So legally, I'm Consuela, but rightfully, I am Consuelo, and Chicani to most of you. And then from there, my aunt Martha, one of my dad's sisters, she named one of her kids Albino. So Albino is still running. I don't know if he has children or if he's named any Albino, but maybe we could get somebody in Aunt Martha's family to talk about their family.
Bobby Joe says that Uncle Gabby's name is Jose Gavino.
Yeah. But it was supposed to be Jose Albino. Yeah.
And that's where a lot of mistakes happened also with immigration, where they would change the name to what they thought it should be or what it sounded like and not exactly what the parents were wanting it to be. Tell me, so you had a doctor for those first four, or grandma had a doctor for those first births, and they were done at home. And then there was the midwife, and the midwife, you say her name is?
Nieves, La Señora Nieves Rodriguez, and one of her daughters married my Aunt Frances. She married my Uncle Luis Resendez.
Okay.
And I believe, and I'm not too sure if Margie is listening. I think she baptized Margie. I think she baptized Margie, but I'm not positive.
When we were doing the history of Salt Creek, the Senora Nieves did a lot of the births in Salt Creek. She was very well known and famous to going to the houses and doing the births at home. So that's a good name to write down so that you can also keep track in your family history. Tell me what you remember about living at home. What was your life like? How did you guys sleep? How did you eat? What was school about?
Oh, okay, I'll tell you one funny part, and then if I remember other things, I'll tell you. But you know, Grandma had a baby almost every year or every 2 years. Well, we only had one bedroom at the time, and it would be upstairs. We had a living room downstairs with the kitchen, and then a bedroom upstairs. So the downstairs had beds, and the upstairs had beds, but sometimes four of us would sleep on a double bed. They didn't have queen and they didn't have king beds, so mom and dad would sleep on one double bed, and they always slept with two kids, which would be the newest baby and the one that followed. So as soon as the another baby would be born, then the baby that slept between both of them would be put on the feet part, and then that baby would be put with the kids, you know, on a bed. So mom and dad always slept with two babies. They would wake up peed, my mom would say. There wasn't a day that they didn't wake up all wet from the babies. And at that time, they didn't have Pampers; they were just cloth diapers. So it wasn't easy for her. I can't understand why she had so many kids, but well, that's something that she would have to explain, I guess.
And did you have indoor plumbing? How was the kitchen? How did you cook?
Uh, Actually, we didn't have inside plumbing. It was all outside, and my dad would order the water, and they would bring the water and put it in a cistern, and then we'd pull it out with a bucket and take it inside and heat it and use it. And when we took a bath, they would heat the tub outside, heat the water in one tub, and then they'd carry the water in, and we'd take a bath inside in the tub. And sometimes three, four of us would take a bath in the same water. Can you imagine? Yeah, but we didn't mind. That's the way we were brought up. To tell you the truth, we didn't even know we were poor
Yeah.
because we weren't social. We didn't go out. We didn't, you know. And we had so many that if my dad did go somewhere with my mom, they would just take some of the kids, not all of us, or none of us. But
What were the schools that you guys attended?
we used to go. We started going to Edison School, and Edison is well, it's a distance, but we used to have to walk to school, so we used to have to go early. And Edison is off of Mesa and School Street, up at the Bojan town, what they call Bojan town. And we used to have to cross the Blackwater, and the Blackwater, they named it the Blackwater because it's a river. That goes through the CFNI, and it's used even to cool down the iron when it's made. So the water was black. But at first, it used to be just a railroad tie that would go across the river. And some of us, and me included, and who knows, maybe that's why I'm so afraid of water, but we would sit down and then scoot ourselves across to the other side. Then later on, after one girl had drowned, they made a little bridge to cross, and it was made out of wood, but it was an extended bridge. It wasn't made with iron and that to be strong. And then they put like a railing and like a little fence, so we wouldn't fall over the end, so we could get the ends and walk across. But then some of the boys were so ornery, they'd win us to the other end, and then they'd start jumping on it, and it would make the whole thing move, and we'd be screaming like nobody's business.
Yeah.
So we used to have to walk to school winter, summer, and in those days we didn't wear pants. The girls wore dresses, but we used to wear the cotton long stockings with elastics on top of the knee. And
Yeah.
sometimes it was scary, but if there was nobody around, we would make it to the other side okay.
What high school did you attend?
Okay, what happened is right after that, um, when I was like 10, we moved to Rio Grande. So they had just built Corwin School, so Gabby and Vito and Conchi, Gabby and Vito were able to go to Keating School. It was a brand new school. It was beautiful. But Conchi and I, we went to Keating. And so we used to have to walk there too. And then from Keating, we went to Central. And Conchi and I graduated from Central. Gabby didn't graduate, Vito didn't graduate, but Conchi and I graduated together.
Yeah. What about church? Do you remember going to church? What church did you attend?
When we were in Salt Creek and we were younger, there was a church on Pecos Street, and that was right behind the Fulton. What's the name of it?
Fulton Heights?
Right behind the hall.
Fulton Heights.
The Salt Creek, yeah, right. The street that's behind it is called Pecos, and there was a church there. I believe it was called the Sacred Heart of Jesus. I think it was the name of that little church. Then later on, they built St. Joseph. So we would go to St. Joseph, and I made my first communion at St. Joseph. But when we moved to Rio Grande, then we started going to St. Mary's Church.
Oh.
And that's, I believe that's where I made my confirmation.
Uncle Gabby was the oldest. Was he the first one with the vehicle, or who got the first vehicle? And what was it?
Oh no, he did. He had a car. First, he had a motorcycle, and he was young. And I remember they had their gang. They were called the Scorpions, and they all were getting motorcycles. And oh my God, they looked so handsome when they used to ride their motorcycles. I remember when I first got my first job. It was on Union Street, and it was a secondhand store. And Gabby was working there already. And then he hired me, and then he hired Vito. And my mom and my dad had gone on vacation, and so we didn't have anybody to take us to work. And he would take me first, and then he'd drive back home, and then he'd take Vito. And it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Because he would purposely, do the curves real spooky and everything. But we had a lot of fun when he used to take us to work.
So after Uncle Gabby, who's next? Is it my Nina or
Yeah.
Auntie Connie? So I understand she rode a motorcycle also.
Yes, she did. She had she had her own motorcycle. Do I dare say why you were laughing? We had told you when you were little that your Nina used to have a motorcycle, and one day we were going up Main Street, close to where Aunt Chivito and your Fonso used to live, and you were in Head Start, and I had you on my lap. And those days we didn't have to put you in the back in the seat, but you said, Mom, can I dry you a fish? Can I dry you a fish? And I said, yeah, Hita. So you picked up your finger and you started drying a fish with your finger like this. Just then there was a motorcycle coming down from where your Nina lived, and your dad said, there comes your Nina, there comes your Nina. And then I looked up there and I couldn't tell too good. And I said, oh, here comes your Nina, here comes your Nina. We knew she didn't have a motorcycle anymore. But then you started waving and waving so that she could see you waving. It was your Nina. But when she got close, we started laughing because it was a heavy rider with a beard and long hair. And you put your hand down really, really fast. And your daddy says, we fooled you. Ha, 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 we fooled you. And you just put your head down, and then few seconds, just a few seconds passed by and you said, "You didn't fool me." And Dad said, "Yes, we did. We fooled you." And you said, "No, you didn't fool me. I was erasing my fish." That was so funny.
I was, Mom. So
Yeah.
Uncle Gabby was one of the first ones here in Pueblo to ride a motorcycle. Grandpa didn't ride a motorcycle and Grandma didn't ride a motorcycle. Was it just something that was his passion? And
Well, it was just something that was just starting to be, it was a fad. It was starting to be popular.
yeah.
But then he even got to learn how to fix their own bikes and everything.
I think it's amazing that his influence went to my Nina, Auntie Vito, who was a woman, and probably at that time wasn't popular to see a woman on a motorcycle if you still couldn't even wear pants.
I know, and that's why when you say we're strong women, you know, we keep proving that over and over and over again.
So who's next, Auntie Conching?
Wait, I was going to say something. Oh, the boys, because it was Gabby and his friends. I can see them, but I can't think of their names. They even used to, they used to wear Levi's and t-shirts, but they would dye them. They would dye them in the backyard. Here you could see the guys coming in with their pants on, they're carrying their bag with their Levi's and their white t-shirts, and they dye them black.
Oh yeah.
And so they look so handsome. They really
Yeah.
did. Maybe Mary Louise will talk about Gabby and how handsome he was, because Mary Louise was beautiful. I want you to know that.
She still is.
When he started going out with Mary Louise, man, she had a waistline this little.
Yeah.
And she had some beautiful hips and beautiful legs and long hair.
Oh yeah.
And Gabby was so excited because he was going out with her. Yeah.
Yeah. How about Auntie Conchi? What did she drive?
Auntie Conchi got her first car when she was a senior. And it was a 1958 Metropolitan. So it only seated 2 people, but it had a little area in the back to put stuff in, but you could sit three little people in there, not heavy. But we had a hard time because she would take me to school in the morning, but she would not take me home in the afternoon because it was her and her friends.
Oh.
So I couldn't say nothing, because if I said something, then I wouldn't get it right in the morning. Yeah. So
one of the things that you say a lot about Auntie Conchi is how light complected she was and how light complected her hair was.
Well, and it's so funny because that's one of the things that kind of pushed her away from my dad's sisters, because they would say that she was not my dad's, because Gavino and Vito were both a little on the dark side, and she came out so white. But we had white people in the family, but they didn't see it that way. They just wanted to make it hard on my mother.
Yeah.
And let me tell you about Gabby, because my Angelica's in the hospital and she had a big baby, and I remember my mom telling me that my brother Gabby was a big baby. It was her first baby, and he weighed 12 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and I told my mom, I remember telling her, asking her, "Well, Mama, how come you got so heavy?" And she said, "Well, your dad, I spent up mostly all my pregnancy by myself with Mary and Joe, and she was mostly by herself." She says, "And I used to eat 2 pounds of pork chops every day."
Wow.
So my brother Gabby was a big baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're next, and you're after Auntie Conchi, right?
I am,
Then,
but my mom had a pregnancy, miscarriage, and it was a girl.
so there's a baby between you and Auntie Conchi.
Yeah.
And then who followed you?
Auntie Maria.
What do you remember about her?
Oh my God. Auntie Maria made it harder on my life than Auntie Conchi. Auntie Conchi, it was hard. it was hard with Auntie Conchi because she was so spoiled by my mom because the other ones had the other two spoiled. So she was really spoiled, but she was a sick person, but I wouldn't believe she was sick.
Oh,
I started working when I was 12 years old, and I used to work at the St. Vincent de Paul, and then during summers and that I did soliciting, going from house to house, getting stuff for the secondhand store. But she couldn't go because she was always sick, and she was always sick. Oh, and my cramps and and stuff like that. And I was just so I couldn't believe that she was so sick. Not till after she got married and she was sick and couldn't have any kids did I realize that she really was having problems.
yeah.
Hmm.
How about Auntie Maria?
Auntie Maria, my mom didn't even know she was pregnant until the labor pains came.
Wow.
Yeah, but my mom didn't know because she had periods all that time. So, but my mom was always a heavy person. We never knew when she was pregnant. But when she started with her pains, and that's when my dad went and go get Doña Nieves. He thought maybe she just needed to be sobada. But here Maria came out. But she was a stubborn little girl.
Mhm.
You couldn't make her cry for nothing. We would get in fights and everything because we grew up wild. We used to get in fights with the boys. And I would get in fights with her and she wouldn't cry. I would hit her and she wouldn't cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not till afterwards that she got married and we grew up mentally. We were good sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who follows Auntie Maria?
Pardon?
Who follows Auntie Maria?
Trini.
How was Auntie Trini?
Trini was so quiet. It's funny, but my grandma used to say, your children are like your fingers. You look at your fingers, and none of them are the same. And it's true. We all have had our own personalities and our own beliefs. You can't. But Trini was a very quiet little girl, beautiful. Well, Maria was beautiful too.
You had mentioned last week, was it Auntie Maria and Auntie Trini that got married together? Or
They
who?
got married together. Trini was turning 17 and Auntie Maria, I think, 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they made beautiful brides. That's when my mom got sick and had her miscarriages, and they were boys.
Yeah. Where did they get married?
They got married at St. Joseph. I believe it was St. Joseph, because we lived in Salt Creek.
Yeah. And after Auntie Trini, who follows?
Junior Saints, and Saints was born with bow legs. His knees, his legs. So they put casts on him when he was a baby. But he used to get to a point where he could maneuver himself out of them. Remember, who was it? Nayeli?
Yeah.
That was able to take the cast out of her leg when they had her on a cast. He would take both casts off with his little legs.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
was little, a baby in diapers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was so handsome. He had curly hair, and he was my brother Gabby used to make fun of him because when he started kindergarten, there was a girl named Candy in Saints's kindergarten class, and Gabby used to tell him, "Do you like candy, or do you like candy kisses?" The candy kisses were just coming out, and they were so popular. And he'd say, "Candy, oh, you like candy," and then he'd say, "Candy kisses," to change him to see which was the right answer. He was losing out regardless of what he said, candy or candy kisses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's
But
next?
Jenny was another one that was very quiet. Saints was spoiled because Gabby was the oldest, and then it was Vito, Conchi, me, Laura, and Trini. There was 5 girls when he was born. And they had him so spoiled because of his legs. But anyway, then Jenny, she was extra quiet. But it was because she was having ear infections. And little by little, she started losing her hearing. But oh my God, she loved to read. And I think that's why she started reading very little, very young. And she could read really fast. When she went to school, uh, they couldn't get over how fast she could read. But then she had ear surgery, but she still continued to have problems. But she was a beautiful baby too.
Who's next?
Margie. Margie was another one that was spoiled, but because she was because she had problems with her eye, and then they did surgery, and then they put the glass eye on her. I remember one time we were upstairs. Mama had company downstairs, so we were upstairs and we were jumping on the bed. And while we were jumping, she fell. She got up and started jumping again, and the eye fell out. But we were jumping, and that poor eye was jumping up and down on the mattress, and we were screaming because we thought the eye was going to get us.
Oh,
Yeah, but Margie was spoiled because of that. She was spoiled in her own way, not to an extent that she was impossible, but we did have that problem with her.
yeah. Who's next?
Albert. Albert had his own personality. He was a little more stubborn, I think, because of sayings and Gabby. So he had to be heard. He just, but you know what was so funny? And I still remember as if it was yesterday. He was not even a year old, and my daddy had been playing with him, and he was laughing and everything, and he was playing with him. And my dad got up to go to out the door, and Albert stood up and went walking after him. He
Oh my,
never crawled, he never walked. He was just determined he was going to follow Grandpa, and he followed him.
wow.
Yeah, so we didn't have any problems trying to get him to walk.
Yeah. Who follows
Yeah.
Uncle Albert?
Pardon?
Who's after Uncle Albert?
Albert, Margie, Albert, Lawrence, and Lawrence was a good baby. He was really cute, and he loved Grandpa. He used to help Grandpa a lot. Matter of fact, when Grandpa he used to go help him at the dump, separate iron and separate different things. He would go with Grandpa, and he was only 9 years old, and he was driving the truck.
Oh my goodness.
Grandpa used to have one of those Jeep trucks that were kind of high and kind of flat in the front. And he couldn't sit down because it was clutch, it was gears. And he would stand up and he would maneuver the steering wheel, and press the clutch and step the gas. And he was just so cute. But he had promised Dad that when he got older, he was going to do all the driving. He was
Oh,
going to drive him all over.
yeah.
Yeah.
Who follows Uncle Lawrence?
Gloria.
What do you remember about her?
Oh, she was beautiful. She was so beautiful. She was born, um, and she kind of reminds me of Mari's baby. She was white, and she had light complected hair, and it was curly, and she was beautiful. She was a beautiful baby.
Yeah.
But as she was growing up, Grandma. Well, by the time Grandma started having uh, Margie and Lawrence and Roya and Teresa, Grandma wasn't strict. She was too mellowed already. She just, so they got away with a lot. Ask Teresa
Younger
if
ones
she's
usually do.
listening. If Teresa's listening, ask her if I'm lying.
Younger ones usually get away with more stuff.
Yeah, she did let them.
And then to Teresa?
And Teresa also was a beautiful baby. And she was born with a sexy figure. She didn't have the big pancitas like the babies do. She didn't. She was flat and she had a nice rear and had beautiful legs, and she was beautiful.
That's good.
Yeah.
We just have a few more minutes. Tell us about who had the TV in Salt Creek.
Oh yeah, we had the first TV in Salt Creek. It was black and white and it was little and it was round, but we had the first TV and everybody would go over to watch TV. And then someone would say, "Well, charge them a nickel for to come and watch TV," but my dad wouldn't let us.
Yeah.
Gabby with his friends, they were funny. They were all the same age and they were always wanting to do something. And one day they decided they were going to have a magic show. And I remember, oh my God, how can I forget that? And then you'll know why when I tell you. They decided to have a magic show and they did charge everybody a nickel. And a lot of people went from down lower Salt Creek. And it's so funny because they needed help. We used to heat the water in tubs outside. And so they had a lot of soot, a lot of tizne. And they had cut these rags and they were rubbing the rags on the soot. And they even asked me to help them. And my sister Mary was there with I think it was the two oldest of her kids. She was helping me clean the tub. She says, "Why are you cleaning the tubs?" And I said, "No, we just have to clean the tubs." And then Gabby would go check on us and he'd say, "No, you need to rub harder on the tizna because we're going to use them and so they need to be clean." Oh God, me and Mary worked our little butts up and the rags were black, black, black. And then they said, "Oh, they're okay like that. We'll use it." What they did is they did a few little tricks and stuff like that. But what they did is it was in the porch. So they had made a hole on the top of the porch and they had put a rope in, but you couldn't see the rope because they had the lights off. And then they said, "Well, if you want to see this broom dance," they said, "you need to," and they gave us rags. But I didn't know it was the rags that we were cleaning the tubs with. And they said, "You need to rub it on your hands and the brooms will dance." Pretty soon, Mary was sitting next to me. And then there was another lady. I don't even remember who it was. I was too embarrassed. "Come on," they said, "you need to, it wants to dance, but it won't dance unless you rub your hands a little harder. Rub them on top. Maybe if you do it on top, and then the broom started moving a little bit more and then a little bit more. And they say, "Rub your face. Maybe if you rub your face, the brooms will dance better." Oh, my sister Mary was smart. She kind of sensed that that's what the rags were. I didn't. I rubbed my face. I rubbed my arms. And then they turned the lights on, and here there was this little black little girl sitting there, and I started crying. So that was really funny. I'll never forget. But I got caught on that one.
Yeah. Was it hard to wash off?
I don't remember. I don't even remember after that. I just remember that everybody was laughing at me.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and close up. Tell me about the holidays. Tell me about a holiday. How did you celebrate holidays?
Most of the holidays, we would get ready, and Mom would make food, and we'd meet either at the Beulah Park or the other park or the city park. But Dad would take some of us 5 o'clock in the morning to the park to get some tables, and then they'd show up like 9. That's the only places that they would take us. On Christmas, Grandpa would buy one big thing that we needed. Like one time we needed a car. So he went and bought the car, but that was our Christmas gift. Another time he bought a television and that was our Christmas gift. But whenever he bought something, it was something big. Well, one year he decided he had been saving money. And so he wrapped them up in tinfoil. He wrapped silver dollars and 50-cent pieces and dimes and nickels and pennies and everything. Well, he went from the smallest to the biggest to choose what they wanted. And when it was my turn, I saw this big one like this. It was big, wrapped up, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to get that one." It was all pennies. So see how smart I was. So
Oh, funny.
yeah.
So, Bobby Joe, she says that her dad always did lots of tricks with them.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. Margaret says that me and Hilly got away with more stuff than her and Gavino, which I agree. Bobby says that her dad told her that he was born 13 pounds and with a tube.
Oh, I don't know. That's not what my mama said. But we're not here to argue. We're here
Yeah.
to have fun and reminisce. And
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask? I'm ready to wrap it up for tonight. If you have any questions or want to know a little bit more about something, will you write them down for me? Let's see. Let's see. Angelica says, I remember Grandpa making jewelry with coins on our way to Mexico.
yeah, he did. He'd get a silver quarter or a silver dollar, and he'd be with a little spoon tapping and tapping and tapping and tapping until they would turn to rings.
Yeah. Deanna said that the Edison School is the school that's behind their house on Northern, if you guys don't know where that's at. Sante says that she remembers the upstairs at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And Laura said, hello, Nina.
I love you, mija.
Bobby Joe says the little red car. Is that the little red car that Auntie Conchi had from high school, or is it a different car?
No, it's different. Hers was it was like a lime green and white, and it was just a small little miniature car.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. She
Anybody
had a
else?
Ford. After that, she had a little Ford, like a 47 Ford, when she used to work at the hospital. She, I think that Conchi, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Sante could let us know what the car is that she has in the garage. I think it's a Corvette or GM or something.
Yeah. Josefina says she loves you, Auntie.
I
I
love you,
have a,
baby.
talking about our culture and kind of intertwine this with the customs and our traditions. Was Auntie Teresa the only one that had a quinceañera? Do you know? I have a picture right here.
I believe she's the only one that had her quinceañera.
This is an invitation for Auntie Teresa's quinceañera. And her escort was Alejandro Lerma, Josefina's dad. Is there anybody else out there that remembers a quinceañera in the family, in the siblings? Here's another picture. Can you see it, Mama?
That's Vito.
Yeah. I have a baby picture here. I'd like you to all help me post some pictures up right there in the comments. I want to let you know.
Let me just mention just one thing about us. Grandpa had so many kids, but Auntie Conchi and I were the first ones to graduate. And we graduated together because they did hold her back a couple of times. But we had a graduation party at the city park, and we had almost 500 people there from mostly all of Salt Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can expand on that a little bit. We're kind of running over time, but that's okay. Tell us about Grandpa and his education.
Grandpa Granillo only went to 6th grade, but when he went to Mexico one time, they caught him because he was not documented, and he thought just his driver's license would help. But they made him stay in Mexico because he didn't have papers. He had been working at the CFNI, But it was my dad, my mom, my Uncle Felix, and my Vera that had gone to Juarez. So he stood over there for about 3 days until my aunt Vera went to a little secondhand store in El Paso, and she bought him some shorts and a Hawaiian shirt that she found, and then changed his hat to more of a working straw hat, and she walked him across. They just said American citizens, and they just walked across. So she brought him.
Wow.
But in order for him to get documented, he had to go to school, to summer school. And
Yeah.
when he went to school, he went to it was an Edison school. They had night classes for citizenship. But after the second day, the supervisor of the superintendent of the schools asked my dad if he wanted to teach the classes for citizenship, because my dad knew so much, but my dad loved to read. I mean, he could do those word puzzles so fast, and he was a smart man. And he taught the classes for that time for the citizenship, and then the superintendent asked him if he wanted to be a teacher, and he would make arrangements so that he can test out. He didn't have to go to college. He would test out, just take the test. And my dad told his name was McCarthy, and he told him, Mr. McCarthy, I couldn't do it. I couldn't live in teachers' wages. He says, I make more money working at CFNI than the teachers get paid. And during that time that he went to school, he was just a worker, but he advanced himself to a superintendent. Grandpa was a superintendent at the CFNI in the Coke plant.
Yeah.
And he did really, really well. But Grandpa was a very, very smart man.
Yes, he was. Bobby Joe says he was very good in math also. And I think it's just amazing to know, like, Grandma and Grandpa didn't have that much education, but they were very smart people, Grandpa especially. I mean, for him to have the land and the home and raise all you guys and be able to have the first television and have his kids have motorcycles and cars, it just shows that he was very wise and intelligent and being able to manage his money properly and still take care of his whole family. Sante said she did an interview, that she got to interview Grandma and Grandpa about that trip that when he got stuck in Mexico. She says that Grandpa taught her how to write cursive.
Cute.
Let's see. Ambrose and Nancy, they said they love this information that you're sharing and they would love to talk to you later.
Who?
Ambrose and Nancy Solis.
Oh, Don.
Yeah, and then we'll go ahead and Bobby just said that she would ride horses all day and then she'd go in so that Grandpa could help her with her homework.
We need you to talk because you knew Grandpa in a special way, Mija. We need you to during that time that Grandpa was in the charros and when he was at Fiesta Day committee and all those things, I wasn't around that much. So we need Mercedes to talk. We need you to talk. Teresa, Chipina.
I would love for you guys to reach out to me. I mean, we can set up a time and we want to hear these stories and I want to share with you. Now that we closed up that, I was able to open up a YouTube channel and I kind of think of it as a time capsule for us that we can go ahead and add these videos and add pictures and interviews for many people, interviews with Ambrose and interviews with Aunt Mary, Aunt Teresa, the Arianos, Ayelas. I mean, we would love to get all that into this little YouTube channel so that we can have a time capsule for our children so they can go back and watch this. I'm sure many of you didn't know that they had the first TV in Salt Creek, or that Grandpa got stuck in Mexico and they crossed him over with the Hawaiian t-shirt and a cap. And so these are wonderful stories. It's about the legacy that they left us. both on the Resende side and on the Granillo side, on the Masilla side, the Hernandez side, the Atuña side, to know where our roots come from, to know that we're part of the Bawanes tribe in Mexico, and they're still living, and they're still strong, and they're still warriors. And so I want to go ahead and continue this, and hopefully I reached out to some of you about the interview. If you can do it with me, just give me a time and we'll sit down and talk about this. It's interesting to hear these stories, talk to Sante about her mom and her stories that she had growing up with her. And it's not just the elderly, but we can talk to the young people also, like my mom said. So as we close up tonight, I want to invite you to the YouTube channel, subscribe and like it and share it with the rest of the family. It's under Granillo Resendez Family Storytime. We have one video up there, and we'll just keep adding to it so we can have our own time capsule for the children that are coming up, our kids and grandkids to have. So we're going to go ahead and close up. I don't see any other information that we need to share tonight. Mom, will you close up with prayer?
Señor Padre nuestro, te damos gracias, Señor, por tu presente. Sabemos que tú nos escuchas y clamamos, Señor, que estés con nosotros, que seas tú dirigiéndonos, que tu espíritu nos guíe y nos sane y que ya, Señor, te pedimos en el nombre de Cristo Jesús, que ya toda esta coronavirus, que ya, Señor, que ya se deshaga, que seas tú sanándonos, que seas tú con la gente que ahorita andan sufriendo y la familia, Señor, porque cuando uno lo agarra, toda la familia también está ocupado con esa misma enfermedad. Te pedimos, Señor, que no nos dejes salirnos de los caminos buenos, Señor, que nos des sabiduría para poder entender lo que es, qué es lo que tenemos que hacer para acercarte a ti. Gracias, Señor, por nuestros abuelos, nuestras abuelas, Señor, porque por ellos no estuviéramos aquí. Gracias te pedimos, Señor. No sabemos lo que es nuestro depósito aquí en este mundo, Señor, pero sabemos que contigo vamos a salir adelante. Te lo pedimos en el nombre de Cristo Jesús. Amén.
Thank you. And I just want to sum it up with Bobby Joe's words, which you hit it on point. We all have memories and we all have a story. And each one of us have a different story. So I'd like to hear from all of you. Send out a message, send out some pictures that we can put up on our YouTube channel for our family. I love you guys. Good night. God bless you all.
Love you. Kisses.
Por eso, simplemente